Red Nation blogger back with another video, man. It's been a while, but I'm happy to be back. And the only thing I want to do is discuss basketball. So let's get right into it. The last time y'all guys probably heard from me, the play-in hadn't even started yet. It's been a very, very long time. I do apologize for that, but I'm here and I want to talk sports now. Um, the one series I really want to start with is the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Denver Nuggets. That series I had being a conference finals matchup. I wanted it to be a conference finals matchup. I was hoping Minnesota would be one or Denver would be one, and Minnesota or Denver would be two. I wanted them to be 1 and 2. Both teams ended up being 2 and 3. The Nuggets have the Spurs to thank for that, where they blew a big lead and ended up costing them the number 1 seed. I think that was the last game of the season or something like that. So it came down to these two teams meeting in the semifinals. Originally, the way this series went off, I think I had this series maybe going 6 or 7, but then the Wolves went up 2-0. And after they went up 2-0, I was like, oh man, this might be over in 4 games, especially when you look at how dominant the Wolves looked. Then the Nuggets won 3 in a row, which surprised me, even though they were the defending champs, even though Nikola Jokic is my favorite player and I believe him to be the best player in the NBA. It still surprised me that they went and won 3 games in a row versus Minnesota. And when you win game 5, the winner of game 5 often goes on 82 or 83% of the time historically to win the series. But that didn't happen in this series, and it was very interesting to see. Um, the Minnesota Timberwolves ended up winning game 6 by like 45. They won game 7 pretty decisively, even though Nuggets were up by 20 at one point. But this series kind of went exactly how I thought it would go. Like, I knew that Karl Anthony Towns would be effective. I knew that Anthony Edwards would be effective, and Mike Conley and Jaden McDaniels. I really loved the way that this team was built. I saw it last year when they played the Denver Nuggets last year in the first round, even though they lost in 5 games. The Wolves didn't have Nas Reed. The Wolves didn't have Jaden McDaniels. The Wolves had chemistry issues with the Rudy Gobert and the Kyle Anderson thing that happened. And they still were the Nuggets' probably toughest competition in that series. Despite even Phoenix winning 2 games from the Nuggets last year, I still saw the Wolves as their toughest competition. And seeing this series play out, seeing how it came to fruition, I'm glad that Minnesota advanced to the conference finals to play the Dallas Mavericks. But I want to tip my hat to the Denver Nuggets. I do think that they had an incredible season. And like I said all season, whoever came out of this series, again, I thought it was going to be in the conference finals, but it didn't. But I said whoever came out of this series was my pick to win the championship. Because I don't think Denver struggles with anybody else in the West but Minnesota. That's just my personal opinion. And I don't think that Denver would have struggled to beat Boston. And I don't think that Minnesota would have struggled to beat Boston if and when they get there. Of course, that is my pick. That is who I'm rolling with. So that will be the team that I definitely be rooting for going on as we go forward and we move forward throughout these playoffs. But it's just very, very, very it's very cool to see the Minnesota Timberwolves after 20 years of just losing and losing and losing and losing, like to see them get to this point to get back to the conference finals on the same date that they got to the conference finals for the first time 20 years ago. You couldn't have wrote it any better. It couldn't have happened any better, and it couldn't have happened to a set of guys that I like any better. Rudy Gobert is that guy. Like I know that he gets a lot of shit, and deservedly so. He looks awkward half of the time when he's on the floor, but you can't ignore his impact. Karl Anthony Towns has gotten shit on since the Jimmy Butler situation when him and Andrew Wiggins were there. So that situation has been going on. So I'm very happy for those two guys, especially really Karl Anthony Towns. I'm really happy for because he has all the tools. He's a former number 1 overall pick of this league. He has all the tools. I like his personality. I like his game. I just do. I like a big that's that versatile. So, but this Minnesota team, in the series, Anthony Edwards averages 28 points per game. I'm looking at the numbers right now: 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Karl Anthony Towns averages 19 and 9. Had one bad game. That was game 4, in my opinion. That was like the worst game for him this series. Other than that, he was solid. Uh, 51% from the field, 39% from three, 80% from the free throw line. He got to get better there. Jaden McDaniels, 51% from the field, 38% from three. He pitched in with 11 points per game. Nas Reed. The Wolves had 6 players this series average double figure scoring. If you go up to the Nuggets and you go look at what they did, you can see that they had 4 players in double series that average double figures. Michael Porter Jr. struggled immensely, 37% from the field, 32% from three. I kind of figured that would happen because Michael Porter Jr. is a mismatch pretty much for any other team in the league except for the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is why I had the Minnesota Timberwolves coming out of the West the way that I had them coming out of the West, because they're literally built to beat the Denver Nuggets. That's why they were built. They took the hard route. This was the easy route. The Wolves said we're going to go this way to win the series, but they got the job done. And ultimately, that's all that matters, is that you get the job done. So I want to tip my hat to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Y'all still got more work to do. But yeah, that's it. The other series I want to talk about, I would say it's 2 more series I would like to talk about. The Dallas Mavericks and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I had that series, Mavericks winning it in 6. I had OKC winning game 4 after the Mavericks won game 3. Then I had the Mavericks winning game 5 and game 6. And boom, that's what happened. That series was very, very, it was boring to me. Outside of like game six was the one game of that series that I sat down and watched attentively. Like the whole series, it was just boring. I don't know, maybe because I predicted it and I just want to see if my prediction would come to fruition in game 6. But for some reason, that series just lacked juice to me. It really lacked juice. And a lot of people are kind of condemning Sam Presti. They're talking about why he didn't make more aggressive moves at the trade deadline. When your team is the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, the last thing you want to do is make a splash because people on the outside are saying you need to make a splash. You need to see how far this team could go, evaluate that. Then this offseason is when you make the moves and you be aggressive. Because what would have happened if Oklahoma City went to the conference finals or even the finals? What would have happened? They likely would not have made a move. So it would have been no reason to make a move if you make it that far. So to see that this team went to the second round, they lost to the Dallas Mavericks, which is a more experienced team, in my opinion, a better team. They fit better currently right now than a team like Oklahoma City Thunder. I think now the Thunder know what they need to do or who they need to target to make that next step. And you also got to remember, I don't think there's a player on this team over the age of 25 that is an important piece. So that's another thing you got to take into fruition. This is most of these guys' first time in the playoffs. They made quick work of the Pelicans, even though they were missing Zion Williamson. They made quick work of them. And the Mavericks, they gave them all that they could handle in game 6. This was not an easy go. They didn't get obliterated this series. So for people to act like this team is so far away or Sam Presti made some major just diabolical bad decision to not be aggressive and make a move, I don't believe that. I don't subscribe to that. I think you just got to tip your cap to the Mavericks. It's their time. Next year, OKC is going to be better. They're going to be right back in this situation. They're going to learn from this situation, and then they're going to progress. We're going to see a steady progression with that team. That's a young team. You never want to make a panicky, just stupid, quick move, unload the draft capital box before you see what your current team can do. So I salute to the Dallas Mavericks. That's a real quick wrap up because, as I said, I really didn't watch that series. To go forward, just to give you a quick prediction, because who knows when I'll be able to make a video again. I got Minnesota winning the championship, so obviously I got Minnesota beating Dallas. I think that series goes 6 or 7 games. I'm going to say Minnesota in 6. We will see. The last series I want to talk about is the Indiana Pacers versus the New York Knicks. I feel bad for Knicks fans. Jalen Brunson fractured his hand. Julius Randle out for the season, even though I think they were better without Julius Randle. Mitchell Robinson out for the series. OG Anunoby hurt hamstring in game 3 or game 4. Josh Hart abdominal strain. Like, that team just got decimated by injuries. And I think that if they just had 2 or 3 of the 5 players hurt, they beat Indiana in 5 or 6 games, personally, in my opinion. That's what I think. I think that they handle the Pacers easily, but they didn't have them. And they still pushed the series to 7 games before all the injuries occurred, before everything occurred. They still pushed the series to 7 games, so you got to give them credit for that. I know Jalen Brunson said they didn't win a championship, so the season is a failure. I don't subscribe to that thinking. I don't think that if you don't win a championship, that season is a failure, especially when 5 of your top 15 players are either hurt, playing through injury, or completely not playing. Let's be for real. Come on, Jalen Brunson. Like, you can be human for a second. Like, you don't have to always have this Mamba mentality or this Jordan mentality that if you don't win a championship, the season is a failure, especially when you don't have the bodies. So I want to salute the Indiana Pacers. I do think it'll be a better series for the Pacers and the Celtics because they're just healthier. I think that the Knicks would have gotten mopped had they played the Celtics because of all the injuries. But I'm really, really heartbroken as a basketball fan because I wanted to see the Knicks and the Celtics healthy because I really believe that the Knicks could have beat the Celtics if they were healthy. And I think with 3 of the 5 players hurt, they could have beat the Knicks. So 5 of all, everybody healthy on both sides. That's a series I'm very interested in watching. I hope that we can potentially get that series in the future next year. Not really much to talk about on the Boston Celtics and Cleveland Cavaliers series. Another series that was ruined by injuries. I know a lot of people had Boston winning that series in 5 games, regardless of the injuries. I didn't. I have faith in Donovan Mitchell. Jared Allen is a huge piece, but that team has problems. They're going to have to work with them this offseason. All in all, man, the playoffs have been very, very exciting. Um, I want to see if my pick comes to fruition. I want to see if the Minnesota Timberwolves can take that next step and win the championship because that's my pick. Last year I picked Denver, they won. This year I'm picking Minnesota. I want to go 2 for 2. I want to go 2 for 2. But as always, man, thank you for watching. This is Red Nation Blogger signing off. Peace.